I probably say something like this every time, but it's just crazy to me how quick time goes between these discussion series episodes, because it has been another month, Bat Family, since the previous Batman discussion series video. So if you're brand new here, as we always say, what we do here is we talk, we theorize, we talk about basically anything to do with the Batman Part 2, the Batman Part 3, even the spin-off shows, Arkham, the rumored still somewhat apparently in development GCPD series. Treat this somewhat like a podcast, if you will, and what I do is I get involved directly with you guys and what you have to say, and we bounce off of each other episode to episode to episode throughout the development of the Batman saga. So, as Carol City Kane 305 says here, we need a villain announcement now. It's Halloween month. It's the perfect time to do it. So I thought I would just put this one first in this video because it's bittersweet. It's kind of bittersweet to me because right now we're having very interesting developments with the strikes, or should I say the strike, because the writer's strike is now over. It's been over for a little while now. But the one thing that's really halting everything is the actor strike. And right now, as of when we're recording this, we are in November. It is November, and this was the original production date for the Batman Part 2 before it got pushed back to March of 2024. So by now, we would have heard the villain announcement. So hopefully, the actor strike does end pretty soon, because again we're really up in the air as to whether, you know, the studio's best and last and final offer really is the best and last final offer. What SAG-AFTRA think of that, of course, how much more back and forth we're gonna get. But as soon as that's out the way, depending on how far Matt Reeves and Matt Tomlin are in the script, we should be hearing about that at some point in time. But we should have heard about it already. So long intro here, but I hope you go on to enjoy this video. As always, sit back, relax. Hopefully your question or your theory or whatever it is will be featured. If not, do not forget to leave your comment about anything Batverse related down in that comment section below if you want a chance of me nerding out about it in the next discussion series video. So Third String All Pro says, the first movie was in a span of a week. Do you think the second film will be about the same timeline? Or do you think it stretched out over a few months? Now, this one is pretty hard to say. I mean, I've got my idea about it, but as I always say here, like, I am never fully concrete on just how Matt Reeves could still change things up in the sequel. But my idea of this is that I do think the sequel will still take place over the span of, I can't say a week, but I do think it will be fairly condensed, because that form and method of storytelling really allows for something very cohesive. And I'm not saying that, okay, if you did a time jump like 1 month later, it doesn't allow a sense of cohesion. If anything, some of you might prefer that, so you can see more of a growth in Bruce's Batman, although I think that might be counterproductive to Matt Reeves' approach, because he wants to show the condensed version without time jumps necessarily, so you can see that psychological development. You don't just go 1 month later, 2 months later. Sorry, I can't resist the SpongeBob title card accent there. But you don't just do that necessarily. I imagine in his mind and in his approach, you'll be missing out on the incremental parts of whatever you see in that 2 months later thing, and it's like, oh, he's now done this or he's now done that. Whereas if you just tell it over the span of a week, you really are, as Matt Reeves says, and I feel like I can cite so many reasons as to why I think he's going to maintain this approach to, you know, a week or two in the second movie, because it's very point of view driven. You're going on this journey with the character. Yes, you can do that over a longer period of time, but when you just do it over the span of a week, so Thursday, October 31st or Wednesday, November 6th or whatever it was, you really are there for each and every footstep that Batman puts in front of the other one. You're there for every detail, you're there for every revelation, you're there for every moment that Batman is frustrated and has to still endure and persist. And I keep circling around that, yes, you can do that still over a longer period of time, but I think Matt Reeves just achieves that so much more over a really harsh event. Like, we're seeing little chapters. I think that's why it's called Part 1. Well, it's called The Batman, but Part 2 and what I'm sure will be called Part 3 3. So a long, rambly answer here, as always, but I don't know if it'll be the span of a week. I wouldn't be surprised if he changes it up a little bit. For all we know, he could do it in the span of 2 days. For example, all those people who want like an Arkham movie. I'm not saying we're going to get that, especially as we're getting an Arkham spin-off show, even though that doesn't discount Arkham in the movies again. But like, you can imagine a one-night movie in Arkham with all the prisoners breaking out. Like, that could be over like a period of 12 hours. That'd be really cool. So who knows? But what I'm trying to get on the bottom line of is that I do think we are always in this trilogy. Actually, I wouldn't rule it out for the third film if there is a time jump. I've always said this. For the first proper time jump that we might get, it might be between part 2 and part 3. Even then, I don't think it would be a big one, because I think the arc between part 1, Batman Part 2, and whenever Batman Part 3 releases, like 2028 or whenever that is, it will still be a very linear story with a condensed, cohesive approach to storytelling through that and it being reflected through a short amount of time. But of course, never say never. I just think when they say road mapping out the psychological development of Bruce Wayne, the first movie took a week to do that with the Riddler. The second movie, you're going to have a similar or maybe slightly extended time frame between whoever that is. It really adds this closed chapter of time within the microcosm that is Gotham, the microcosm of Batman's encounter with whatever villain this is over a shorter span of time. There's so much going on there. The stakes are high. Whereas if you kind of chop that up over a period of weeks to even that of a few months, I know that can still provide an entertaining story. I'm not discounting that. I'm not even discounting that happening again in part 2 or even part 3 as a third string process here, or maybe it's stretched out over a few months, because you could have a moment in where, let's just say, I don't know, Bane gets away from Batman, or he's like, starting the second wave of his operation, and Bruce has been really trying to crack down on what's going on, and it's like 4 weeks. We might get a second monologue in the movie, and that second monologue wouldn't be at the end. It could be in the middle of the movie. We actually talked about this in the previous discussion series episode. Maybe more monologues in the movie. I'm still not opposed, obviously, to the beginning and ending one, but you could do more. And if there is a second one out of, like, let's just say 3 monologues in the Batman Part 2 or Part 3, Bruce might be writing in his Gotham Project journal of year 3 saying 4 weeks later, February 15th, still no sign of Bane. I don't know. But for now, I will say that I would be pretty surprised if it goes over the span of, let's just say, a couple of weeks. I have to admit, it's a very interesting thought experiment to have when you think of just Matt Reeves' approach to the second movie story and the third movie story. And I would challenge you guys to think about this, because even me, myself, as you could probably tell in my response here, I've been kind of going back and forth a little bit. I definitely would lay my dollar down in a bet of it being still over the span of a week or so. No way a few months. But then again, it's just like, oh, I could lose that bet. Like, what if they did tackle it a little bit differently? I see the merit in both, but my intuition is telling me the formula will be kept pasted onto that of another villain, and see what exciting short gap of time we can get with the stakes being high over a week of, I don't know, the ventriloquist or Jonathan Crane or Bane or Hush or whoever the heck this second villain's going to be. Oh my god, I want to know who this second villain is. Oh god, the actor's strike is killing me. So a couple of episodes back, we spoke about the Court of Owls. And this is always an interesting topic, so we had a response from Forever Frantic here, saying, funny that you mention the Court of Owls, Boba. I have a theory that, despite the first film depicting Falcone as the rat, I go back to what Coulson told Batman before he blew up. People are watching. It's so much bigger than you could ever imagine. It's the whole system. What if, indeed, that was a subtle Easter egg? After all, the Court of Owls basically run Gotham, with the help of the mob in their pockets. The rampant crime, as well as the rogues that are running around, shields the elites from suspicion. Regular, law-abiding citizens aren't aware of the extent that Gotham elites run the political, social, and economic systems of the government. Perhaps Bella Real's win was a setup, as a way to further distract citizens. Maybe she's not aware that she's a puppet. Then again, maybe she is. With the first film focusing solely on Bruce's/Batman's psychological evolution, what better way to have this version come to learn about the Court of Owls, his parents' possible involvement in it, etc. This way, by the end, he won't win and save the day in the classical sense, but he will be a fully formed hero for Gotham, knowing exactly who the enemies are. And that is when the true work begins. Again, It's just a theory, but when Matt Reeves calls his vision an epic crime saga that so far has been linear, his films and shows will all lead to something. It makes sense. So here's the thing. I will agree and meet you halfway here and say that I think Coulson's line there with like, it's the whole system, you know, people are watching is so much bigger than you can imagine, can be an Easter egg. I still think what he meant, bottom line, despite reading, and I thought that was a very well, you know, written and pointed out theory there. I actually loved that. It makes me think, oh, you know, oh, you never know. But I do think truly that is our fangoggle minds, and I'll be happily wrong about this, by the way. Like, seriously, if Court of Owls were in the series, I don't want anyone to misconstrue ever what I'm saying. I would still be a happy Boba. Like, don't get me wrong. It'd be sick. It would be. I just don't think it's happening, because I do think when he says it's the whole goddamn system, it's bigger than you could ever imagine, he meant, as per quite literally in the film, it's the whole system. The commissioner, the mayor, the DA, like all of these pillars and institutions of Gotham. The very thing that constructs the city, the law, the police, the frickin' mayor of it all. Like all of it was under Falcone's thumb. That's the thumb. But you get my point. So as a result, you could say that people are watching because quite literally, if you had Commissioner Pete Savage at the top of it, he would know everything, wouldn't he? Like he would be watching all the police, anything that goes on. He can basically take payments to let things slide in a GCPD manner. That is, he knows what crimes are being pursued. He could tell Falcone about them. He knows, right? He basically knows if people are doing certain things. Gil Coulson, he can determine what cases should be prosecuted or not for a certain payment, and he can know, and if certain things are going on, he can be one of those watchers and inform Falcone. Like, I think it just keeps going like that. The mayor as well, like all of the major players in what basically should tie the city together. Combine those people, those are the people that are watching. Do you know what I mean? So I do see how, yes, easily that can be referred to that of the Court of Owls, you know, how everyone's watching in the court, like that's a whole part of their thing. But if I want to be really rational and logical about what Matt Reeves was going for here and maintaining what I've said before and how I don't necessarily think he's going to repeat another layer behind a layer of corruption because, you know, that would somewhat repeat the theme of the first movie, I will agree that it can be seen as an Easter egg and may have been an Easter egg, or at least Matt Reeves, when he wrote that, even though it applies to what I just said about all of those corrupt officials in Gotham, he must have known that, you know, people are going to read into this and see that this could be a reference to the Court of Owls. Screw it, you know, they can take it as a double meaning. But, you know, I never say never. Let me put it that way. You never know. Even though I talk about, you know, will Matt Reeves really do it again? You know, because it would be kind of rehashing corruption again. You know, the Riddler's whole point in the first movie was unmasking the corruption. And then in the second movie, or let's just say it's the third movie, lo and behold, corruption gets unmasked again. And that's not exciting. Let me put it that way. It's more that I think people would rather see, let's just say, Scarecrow explored, or Bane, or Mr. Freeze, or whatever character. Insert your favorite Rogues Gallery character here. So even though unmasking it would be cool, it's like, oh shit, there's another layer to unmask on top of the first one that Riddler unmasked in the first movie, so it is all connected. It's just that we had to wait until the third movie to see that. I get how that would be fun and exciting. Trust me, Court of Owls would be sick. It's just, I think, would Matt Reeves really do that when he's already tackled corruption in the first movie? He's already exposed the mask of all those individuals who were corrupt, all of the pillars of Gotham, the DA, the mayor, the commissioner, all of that. And then the second movie is another villain, and then the third movie is another villain. So that way you get to spread it out evenly, tackle different Rogues Gallery characters, tackle different themes. I think that is what also ultimately makes me think that the Court of Owls won't necessarily be involved, because you get to tackle these other aspects of, you know, also other things that are applicable to the tagline of Epic Crime Saga, and tackle other, not heroes, but villains. Do you see what I mean? I know I'm probably repeating myself. Or, yes, you can maybe do one other villain in the second movie, so let's just say Bane, or Scarecrow, or Hush, and then in the third movie go back to corruption. And that corruption is the deeper, darker trench of another unmasking, and fans would still enjoy that. It's just, once again, although the Court of Owls are technically another villain, it's another villain deeply ingrained in a similar theme to that of the first movie. So it depends what Matt Reeves wants to do, and I guess what you guys want as well. That's the line of thinking I have about it, but I'm not gonna lie, it would be pretty cool if a lot of us think that the Court of Owls aren't happening. We do get a second movie, different Rogues Gallery villain like Hush or Clayface or whoever it is, and we think the same thing's going to happen for the third movie with like Mr. Freeze or his take on Ventriloquist or Scarecrow, but then lo and behold, it turns out that the corruption is deeper and we do dive into how the Court of Owls are indeed a thing. And I'm sure he still would sprinkle another Rogues Gallery character in there, all while doing the court at the same time. I don't know. It's just for now, like, and I'll maintain the hill that I've been standing on. It's very much so X'd out for me. It doesn't mean it won't be cool, but for the reasons I've said, I've tried to lay down two different paths for you guys to respond here. It is possible it could be done, but let's just assume you've only got 3 movies. You might want to spend that time exploring a different Rogues Gallery villain, a different theme, how that's applicable to Bruce's theme in the movie, the parallels there, rather than repeating a theme from that of the first. Even though I'm not saying it's a clone, clearly Riddler unmasking Bloody Gil Coulson being corrupt and Pete Savage isn't the same as the dark, epic Court of Owls, but nonetheless, it's still corruption. So I don't know, but I love the comment, I love it, and I would love for you guys to feast on ideas down in that comment section. Up next from JD1776, in a discussion of who would be the villain of movie 2, I would love to see the Drops drug be paid off in the next movie. I suppose it could be a oneer in the Penguin series, but I wouldn't like that. I would like to see Batman taking out some drop dealers on the streets in the opening of movie 2, and through that finds out about a larger villain like the Scarecrow. I liked the idea in the Batman fan film Broken Promise where drugs were being laced to kill some of their users. I think something like that, but with Scarecrow using drop heads to test his fear toxin, would be a great idea for the next movie. I would love to see Scarecrow as a main villain, but I hope they would overdo it with the horror movie aspects. So the thing with this is, do you guys remember in the set photos for the Batman? I remember there being big debates, and even on my channel, and I was covering the set photos, and I felt as though the Drops logo looked way more like, especially a more classical Scarecrow design of his hood. Sure, that's, evolved over time, but, you kind of go into the classical Scarecrow. I think even the Harley Quinn animated series somewhat brought this back. It's more of like a little drop hood, the scruffy top, but going down into a little bit of a drop, and he has his, long smile. People were dead ass set on the idea of, no, Boba, that's a Joker smile. And I was like, okay, I get what you're saying. It's a long, rictus kind of grin, but Scarecrow's smile is also crooked, going round and high up his face, right? So to me, especially with the drug aspect, it seemed more like, especially a Crane thing to do. I am still really set on that idea way more than that of Joker. I still get with what people were saying with Joker, but as we know, with both of these theories now, I think we've kind of forgot about them. Like, we know that Barry Keoghan's Joker was put away in Arkham for killing people. He was a serial killer. So I guess that counts Joker out of the idea of doing like a Joker toxin-y venom thing, and what we have left is Scarecrow. So all in all here, I think it really is just a drug, probably, and we looked too into that. I don't blame fans as well. I mean, look at the logo for it. I mean, how could you not think of, oh, is that Jonathan Crane? And the thing is, we know the Drops have been around for a long time as well, because I believe it was inherited by Falcone from that of what Maroni was doing back in the day, because he was put away as a part of the biggest drug bust in Gotham history, because Falcone stabbed him in the back, which is why he's a rat. This is a very, very disrespectful thing to do, even if you are rivals in the Gotham underworld. You don't rat people out like that, because if you do and you go to prison, that's why Penguin said Falcone wouldn't last the night in Blackgate, because he would have been killed. But my main point is the Drops go all the way back to Sal Maroni's operation, and that's like a couple of decades. Clancy Brown's casting for Salvatore Maroni, just in case you forgot, was behind that, and he's been in there for quite some time since Falcone ratted him out. So unless Crane was really working on the Drops back then, of which, by the way, we know that doesn't really cause any fear. Sure, it makes you like high and what some drugs do, but you're not like induced in some, oh my god, like Scarecrow fear toxin effect. It just seems to dope some people out. We saw how people behaved through Gil Coulson while on the drug. We saw people at the old Gotham orphanage, aka Wayne Manor, when Jim and Batman busted in there, and it just seems like that of like a Class A type kind of drug. Very addictive, very, destructive still, something that people want to get off the streets because, it seems to be a big problem in Gotham, this drops thing. So I for that reason, I think I can conclude that maybe it has nothing to do with any of the rogues, and it is just an operation that was conducted by Sal Maroni and then still carried on by Falcone, and maybe will still be recovered in the future. Now, Crane does pop up. He could take over and release like a new wave of drops that enhances, because I think it did have some paranoia in it as seen by Gil Colson, but nothing more than like some other drugs out there that can enhance that in your brain anyway. So I'm just saying maybe he could overtake it, release a new wave of drops. Penguin still distributes them. Maybe this is how he connects with other Rogues Gallery characters out there, but I would prefer Crane to be set up in something like the Arkham show, because he could be like a professor or doctor of psychology, has some patients there, and he's experimenting on his like beta version of fear toxin at Arkham, or maybe Chuck and Hugo Strange doing a similar thing. We spoke about that in my Arkham video the other day. Check that out, by the way. I think a lot of you would enjoy it. It's titled something like What to Expect from the Batman spin-off Arkham Asylum series. But let me know what you think. Do you think that fans just got too knee-deep into the theory territory of drops? Do you think that they could have still been made by someone like Jonathan Crane, even though they go back a couple of decades to Sal Maroni? Even if they don't, do you think there's still a future with someone like Crane and where he could release a whole new wave of drops, since a large portion of Gotham is already addicted to the eye drops? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below. Up next from Fish Monologue. Could you imagine a little fish doing the monologues? Just like, I don't know, Thursday, 8th of November, Gotham's been flooded, and I'm loving it. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Anyway, is it going to be a trilogy? I thought the Penguin trailer said it was a saga. I guess that could mean 3 movies plus shows, but it kind of feels like we're going to get more than 3. I might have missed some news on that. This is one of the most frequent questions I get because I always refer to it as a trilogy. Some people are like, Boba, how do you know it's a trilogy? Why isn't it 5 movies? It's going to be 5 movies. They're going to do the Hunger Games approach. They're going to do the Harry Potter approach. I can't, let me just let you in on what my reasoning is for why I say it's a trilogy. So all the way back in 2018, 2019, somewhere around then, Matt Reeves, signed on to do the Batman. This was after the point of Ben Affleck not being a part of it, and Matt Reeves was explaining on this podcast that even his approach to Warner Brothers and how if they didn't want to do it the way he wanted to do it, he would walk away. And he says that's absolutely fine. He would love to do Batman, but it's WB's prerogative because it's their characters, and if they want him to do it a certain way, he understands. But he put his cards on the table and was like, we're doing it my way, la-di-da-da, and then it worked out in his favor. At the very beginning of that podcast, the interviewer said, something about him doing 3 movies being planned, and he agreed with that. Now, yes, that doesn't mean, that was explicitly laid out saying, I, Matt Reeves, am going to do 3 movies in the Batman trilogy, but you get what I'm saying. Now, evidence after that, there are several things I'm probably going to forget right now, but there's other things in interviews where Matt Reeves has spoken, Robert Pattinson has spoken, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think Pattinson said something like there's a psychological roadmap that he's been speaking with Matt Reeves about for at least 2 more movies, and I guess you could look into him saying at least, but I don't even know if he said at least, but he said 2 more movies. So do you see what I mean? There is other stuff floating out there, and I think people are projecting their wants and the clear vision for more than 3 movies. I think we can all agree. You can easily see more than 3 movies. But I would be willing, so easily willing to bet some cash that they're not going to do more than 3 movies. Just based off of what they've already said. So many other reasons here, there, and in between, like committing this amount of time as a director or an actor of your life to a franchise is a very long time, especially when you take into account the years and years in between the Batman Part 1 and Part 2, and then let alone Part 2 to Part 3. That's a lot of time to sign off. Even if Matt Reeves loves making the Batverse, he will eventually want to do something else. A saga, this is something, and I'm not saying Fish Monologue is saying this, but a lot of people think that when this is labeled a saga, that it means more than 3 movies. That is not true. It can just mean 3 movies in terms of what a saga is. And also, as Fish Monologue said, the Batverse saga, or the Matt Reeves Batman saga, can, yes, indeed refer to 3 movies plus the GCPD show, which is, again, apparently still in development and separate to that of the Arkham show, as reported by, was it Deadline and Variety, the Arkham show, the Penguin show, and God knows what else. As per what the Hollywood Reporter has said, there's stuff floating out there, like Matt Reeves apparently meeting with writers and directors a long while ago about doing Rogues Gallery spin-offs in other mediums, possibly even movies, which I have to admit, with the keyword movies there, I struggle to believe that, but I do think the whispers of other projects are indeed true. That would entail a kind of verse, right? A Batverse, a saga. But long story short, you didn't miss news on it. It's just, I have watched so much interview footage from back in the day of Matt Reeves talking about it, and then, as I say, going all the way back to the origins of, him explaining how he came into this with Warner Brothers, and, them talking about 3 movies. It's just obvious to me, or while I can't confirm it to you, that it is a trilogy. It's not 4 movies, it's not going to be 5 movies. The saga entails 3 movies plus, little expansions with the Penguin, the Arkham show. It is going to be a Batverse. It is going to be an epic crime saga. But I would be very surprised if we got more than 3 movies. I would be absolutely delighted. This isn't me hating on the idea of more. Obviously, I would want more. But I'm just saying, I am extremely confident that we're not going to get more than 3. And as Fish Monologue here puts it, I really do agree with the way you've kind of said it. 3 movies plus, hey, Arkham show, Penguin show, whatever show this is going to be, whatever show that's going to be. The Gotham PD show is still happening, maybe. That kind of thing. And just speaking of spin-off stuff, LoserLiam2362 says, I'm pretty sure I remember the GCPD show being about a new cop in Gotham that isn't Jim Gordon. My dream would be to get Batman, Earth One's Harvey Bullock, movie star guy, as this new cop. I'd also be happy with Officer Martinez. Now, yeah, we never really knew. I mean, we've got the premise. It's about a GCPD officer in a battle for his soul, as it's described, and it's set during Batman Year 1, so Batman is active, but this is the first 12 months of his career. He could be in month 3, month 6, and there's a lot of things that they could have done with that. Jeffrey Wright could have still been in it, but yes, I agree. I don't think Lieutenant James Gordon would have been fresh on the job. I mean, for example, Pete Savage used to be his partner before he became commissioner, so Jim's been there for a hot minute. The Batman movie, he's in Year 2, so yeah, Jim wouldn't be fresh in Batman Year 1. So this would be another cop. It would be pretty cool if it's Officer Martinez, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I've actually ever considered that. And seeing Martinez, he does seem to be, from what we gathered in the Batman movie, quite a happy-go-lucky guy. Sure, he put his hand on Batman's chest and called him a freak, but you saw him in the cathedral at the mayor's funeral, and he's like, hi, Mr. Wayne. I don't know if it would have been him, but it would have been pretty cool seeing him come fresh onto the job. And even though we see him that way in the Batman, we don't get too much of a deep dive into him. He just seems to be a guy trying to do his job. It would be cool if we saw him encounter the GCPD for the first time, and maybe there's various police gangs in there trying to force him to be involved in this, that, and the other, and maybe there's a few cases he's been a part of during Batman Year 1 in the GCPD show, in where he feels really pressured to mess with evidence, or, Falcone's in control at this point in time, and he can most definitely pay off cops. Look at Kenzie, for example. So maybe he feels forced to do that. One thing I really liked, and some of you may remember this, do you remember in Gotham Season 1, we had a similar corruption thing being explored with Jim Gordon, Ben McKenzie's version of the character, that is. Do you remember when he had to walk Penguin onto the pier or whatever it was, and he pretended to shoot him into the Gotham Harbor or whatever it was? That was really, really interesting, and I can imagine there's certain things that other GCPD cops go through in Matt Reeves' Gotham. That would be really something fascinating to watch unfold on screen, and I think that's truly what the GCPD show would have got really heavily ingrained in. Sure, in the Batman movie, you see the GCPD there, you see cops with the broken nose like Kenzie, so you do get a sense of corruption. You know that Commissioner Pete Savage was corrupt and he got killed by the Riddler, but you really don't get your boots in the thick of the mud. This would have really, with Matt Reeves' tone and mood of Gotham, sunk you into that in a way that I think could have even possibly been R-rated. Like, this is messy. This is what really Jim has to kind of skirt around every day at the GCPD. This is why probably other cops might resent him, especially for bringing a vigilante onto the scene of a crime. And maybe that's not the first time, because we can't forget that the Joker's serial killer crimes were during Batman Year One at the same time as this GCPD series. Maybe we see some crime scenes of that. That's always been a big desire of mine. If we did get this GCPD crime series, how could there not be some kind of references to the Joker's killings? The very thing that, got him put away in Arkham and led us to the scenes of what we saw in the Batman movie. It was almost their year anniversary, entailing that Batman put him away around, 8 to 12 months before that very meeting in the Batman movie. I don't know, I just feel like really going in head over heels into that other rookie detective's perspective on maybe getting a job there. Maybe he's been transferred there to Gotham, and he doesn't quite realize how much of a cesspool the city is. I mean, obviously, that's what Riddler says, but imagine how much of a cesspool it is in the GCPD. You might have gone in there a bit green, a bit naive. But then every week, every month you're in the GCPD, as per the synopsis of this GCPD show, it's about this cop battling for his soul. He's doing things, or faced with things, that could very much so blacken his soul, smear it, taint it. And can you imagine what those things could have been in Matt Reeves' Gotham? I can't imagine that would have been handled lightly in a PG way. So the mature tones and vibes of that series, I really hope it does come to fruition. And again, I know I've already mentioned it a couple of times in this video, but the last report we had about it, even though it was initially viewed and Matt Reeves initially said that the GCPD show somewhat evolved into the Arkham series, especially after creative differences, Terrence Winter left the project. The latest report is that they are two separate shows, and sources say two major trades, that both of them are in development. It's just obviously the writer's strike since May and then the actor's strike in July. All of that, especially with the writing side, would have been completely halted for, 5-ish months. Loser Liam has another comment here where he says, if Freeze is the villain, I have two hopes. The first is that Gotham is frozen over and it takes place in winter. And the second is that Cold, Cold, Cold by Cage the Elephant is the trailer music. Now, I know a lot of people want Mr. Freeze to be the villain. You never know. I know some people believe it can happen. We explored that in a Rogues Gallery adaptation series video on this channel, and where, believe it or not, I think it can happen, but I also understand the other side, and where some people are like, well, if you can't adapt it in the most fantastical way in terms of the absolute nature of the character, maybe those unrealistic aspects, then you're not doing that character at all. I do disagree with that. You can still do Victor Freeze in the Batman's world in a grounded sense and walk the line of the fantastical. Watch that video if you want to see my thoughts on that. And as for Gotham being frozen over, I don't know how that would be exactly accomplished. I mean, other than winter, right? Because you're saying it takes place in winter. I don't think the flooding would still be there too long after the events of the movie. Don't forget that the Penguin takes place a week after the events of the Batman, so there is some effects of the flooding still, but we can also see how it has cleared up in certain places as well. As a result, I don't think you're going to have like everything just frozen over. I get the concept that people were running with that, but when you kind of think about it, it kind of unravels. Now, don't forget that winter goes on all the way until March. So, given that the Penguin takes place temporally, even though that doesn't mean right before the Batman Part 2, it still bleeds into the plot of the Batman Part 2. So let's just say that the Penguin takes place, as we know, a week afterwards. So Wednesday, November 6th, a week after that, it's still November. Roughly around mid-November, the Penguin series could also take place, as in all 8 of its episodes, in a short period of time. So you could say a week, 2 weeks, maybe even more. I don't know. But the thing is, even with, if it was a few weeks, you'd still be going into December. That's if the Batman Part 2 takes place shortly after the Penguin series, which I think it will. I don't think it's going to take place the day afterwards, but I don't think it would take place more than, or too much more than, a month afterwards. So this is what I mean. You're still around Christmas time, or maybe going into the new year there. I mean, I think a lot of people would love Christmas in Gotham for Part 2. That could technically happen. It really could, especially with our discussions in this video already about a condensed period of time across maybe all 3 of the movies, or at least if not the first 2. So again, with the Penguin series likely taking place in November going into December, part 2 could be a Christmas, not a Christmas movie, but set around Christmas. There could be snow in Gotham, but even if not, even if you go into the new year, you've got January, you've got February, those are still winter months. Now, completely frozen over like animated series, Mr. Freeze, like, freeze gunning everything. I don't think we're going to go to those extreme lengths. And as for the trailer music, yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I've got a feeling if Matt Reeves gave us a little bit of footage from the movie to give us that trailer with only like roughly 25 to 35% of the movie being shot, I think he'll give us another early sneak peek. Granted, to be fair, maybe the only reason we got that is because of COVID. The production shut down, so they had time to edit some footage of what they had already got and thus release something to us at DC Fandom. I'm not gonna lie, that could have been a unique situation, so we might not get it again in that same circumstance, but knowing Matt Reeves, he still wants to deliver things to the fans, so there were set photos he gave us. He gave us photos of Batman standing by the Batmobile, so we will be getting things, but I really cannot wait for that first look at Part 2's trailer and what the music choice is. We've spoken about that a lot already. People keep asking me to talk about it, saying, what other song would you want? It's really hard to know. Would he stick with Nirvana? Maybe, maybe not. You could say he really might want to differentiate the mood from that of the first movie through choosing a different artist. And yes, maybe even a song that reflects the villain. So if it was Mr. Freeze, yes, you could apply a song that Matt Reeves, yes, not only likes, because he was also a big fan of Nirvana. He grew up in the 60s and 70s, so he'd have been in his early 20s around the time Nirvana got big, around 1990, 91. So do you see what I mean? You have to maybe think of other bands at the time or artists, but then again, it doesn't mean it has to be from his youth. I'm going into a deep dive of Matt Reeves' music taste right now, but yeah, I think it's going to be just as tasteful, hopefully, as what we got with that first The Batman trailer. And honestly, the way everything is captured in terms of marketing for the Batman, it's just such ear candy and eye candy. The movie is the movie itself. That's one thing. But the lead up to the Batman, and what I assume will be the same for part 2, just the pure, like, again, the track over the glimpses of what we have next for Matt Reeves' vision, it is just something platinum. I know that's easy to say for me as a fanboy, but like, seriously, you look at the response back then from DC Fandom, and pretty much everyone was like, oh shit, like, oh God, what is this? Imagine what that first footstep to the camera or whatever glimpse Matt Reeves is going to give us for the Batman Part 2's trailer. What track it's going to be, the glimpse of the villain. I know I'm kind of, getting repetitive here with the idea of just hyping up the prospect of the teaser of the sequel, but when you send in a comment like this, you're going to activate Boba hype mode. So up next from Reese Owens, he says, hey Boba, I love hearing you talk about the Batman. I really hope we'll see Harvey Dent's rise and fall in part 2 of the Batman as we did in the Batman animated series. Not only that, but I'd love to see Bruce and Harvey's relationship develop. Wouldn't it be great if Matt Reeves recreated a scene like the one in the animated series where Harvey gets arrested and Bruce stops by while he's being taken to Arkham, and Harvey says to Bruce, good old Bruce never gave up on me. I do think Harvey Dent should be introduced in the second movie, but I don't know if where you say here, I really hope we'll see Harvey Dent's rise and fall in part 2. I just think that would be retreading the formula of The Dark Knight. If you see him rise and fall, quite literally go from Harvey to that of living long enough to see yourself become the villain, it would be too formulaic. I think you should have Harvey Dent in the second movie, and if you want to do his fall, do it in part 3 alongside whatever else they're doing in that movie. I do get how Harvey Dent makes so much sense for so many people when considering that maybe the blatant theme of the Batman Part 2 will be Bruce's identity and exploring the duality there. And it's like, duh, you have Harvey Dent here, the duality of Harvey Dent. It's like poetry. It rhymes, right? But the thing here is that I just can't see them really having Harvey Dent be the new DA, fill in for Gil Colson after he died, gets, I don't know, acid or something on his face, whatever way they choose to do it, and then he's like, ree, and then he falls and goes to Arkham. I do get how don't get me wrong, if that was shot, I'm sure it'd be a great way in whatever Matt Reeves decided to tackle it. But I think that Harvey Dent is going to be in the movie, I hope he is, but I don't know if we're going to see that fall. I think we're going to see more the telltale signs of his mental health condition, maybe some outbursts, on top of him just being like a really nice guy. But you're going to see that, snappy big bad Harv side along the way. But let me know what you think. Do you think it would be too samey, guys, to kind of not clone a Dark Knight, but for all intents and purposes, it would be the same formula to see Harvey rise and then see Harvey fall? I do agree it fits in really nicely with the duality, exploring both Bruce's duality and Harvey's duality, but I just don't think they're going to repeat that same, method as what Nolan did. But I'm not saying that means you shouldn't have Harvey Dent in part 2. Just drag it out for a lot longer. Maybe you could even end the movie with the incident or something like that, but you don't get Big Bad Harv until like the 3rd movie. Up next from Jake Krugerify. A lot of fantastic ideas here, but I have to say, with how intentional Reeves was with his presentation, I don't believe he would have introduced even the idea of Joker's existence in this world unless he had big plans for him. And I agree somewhat there. I think he has his ideas. Again, plugging my video from the other day, what to expect in the Batman spin-off Arkham series. Watch that because I go into his former comments about Joker, his comments about when we could see Joker in the world of the Batman, the Batverse again. So I do think he's going to be involved again in the future. I don't believe that he just put him in there for an Easter egg. Matt Reeves has even denied that himself. He did say as well, it's meant to show how, just because Batman's done his job by the end of the first movie, that there is still trouble stirring behind the scenes. And that trouble is sinister and delicious and will come back out again. So I think he has an idea of where things can go. And that does involve the Arkham space. It's just, will that transcend the Arkham space? Will he break out of the Arkham space and then pop back up in the 2nd movie or even the 3rd movie? I still personally think the 3rd movie, especially if we get Barry Keoghan's Joker in the Arkham series, which could be another limited 8-episode series. We don't know how heavily involved he will be in that. I think it could be a mix and match. Let's just say it does facilitate an Arkham breakout for his main role return in part 3. That way you kind of have a little bit of, a few years in between seeing a mainline Joker in a movie again, not including Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I'm talking about the kind of Joker who's actually going to interact with a Batman. So, it leaves it to cook in the background. You don't have fans being like, oh, so much Joker every second of every day of every month of every movie. People will be ready for it by then. Now, on the back of that Joker talk, we have TCB8248 here saying, my only concern about saving the Joker for the 3rd one is that it may mean we won't see the DCU Joker for a while. I mean, yes, maybe, no. I'm not so sure because, let me put it this way. What you're pointing out here wouldn't even be a concern in the first place, because I don't think Brave and the Bold, Batman Brave and the Bold in the DCU, will necessarily have Joker in it anyway. So think about it that way. With the lineup we've got in the DCU that you may be seeing on screen right now, Brave and the Bold might be releasing sometime around 2027, right? Because the first movie is in 2025. That's if it's not pushed back because of the actor strike. Then you have The Authority. I think that'll be 2026. By the way, you get like TV shows in between this. It is possible Brave and the Bold could release 2026 as well, like as in 2 movies a year, 2 TV shows, which I think was said. But it could be 2027. But my point is, part 2 would already be out by then of the Batman. The Brave and the Bold will be surrounding Damian Wayne and the DCU's Batman. I don't think Joker's going to be flexed in that movie. They can make it about practically anything but Joker. So by the time whatever the DCU's Batman's next solo-ish project will be, even if that one surrounded the Joker quite a bit, that likely wouldn't release until quite a few years, maybe 2 to 3 at least, after 2027's The Brave and the Bold, for any, again, DCU Batman continuation. So don't forget that since the Batman Part 2 is releasing October 2025, if you're still with me, Part 3 would likely be releasing around 2027, 2028. So again, do you see what I'm trying to say here? The lineup or sync up of, even if you saved Barry Keoghan's Joker for the Batman Part 3, it would only be releasing around the same time or within the same year to 2 years of The Brave and the Bold, in where The Brave and the Bold might not even have a Joker in it. So by the time the Joker is ready for the DCU Batman, or if they just want to explore a story with those 2 characters in the DCU in another separate movie project, the Batman trilogy would be over before you get that second solo project of the DCU's Batman, whatever comes next after The Brave and the Bold. And that would be well after Swamp Thing that you're seeing on screen right now. So do you see what I mean? So you're all concerned about saving Joker for the 3rd movie, Barry Keoghan's Joker for Part 3, the Batman Part 3. meaning that, you know, we won't see DCU Joker for a while. That would only happen if DCU Joker is planned for the Brave and the Bold. And let's just say that he's not. I don't think he will be. I think there's going to be potentially a Rogues Gallery villain that we see in the Brave and the Bold that Damian Wayne and Batman might encounter in Nights Out in Gotham. But I don't think Joker will be one of them. That'll probably be sometime down the line in the DCU. Anyway, like even without the Batman or Matt Reeves' ideas happening in this other universe over here. Anyway, though, everyone, after a long ramble from me, that is everything for this episode of the Batman discussion series. So again, let me know what you thought of everything we discussed in today's video. Please don't forget to leave comments or ideas and try and offer new ones down in that comment section for the next episode, and your comment might be chosen if it's unique enough and you present something that I might not have spoken about before. I'm looking for those ones, so make sure you leave them and I'll screenshot them for, I don't know, a month to 6 weeks from now, because I don't want to milk these episodes. I want to do them every month or every month and a half, but still try and carry the Batman hype on the internet, because I feel like we're one of the last bastions attempting to do so until we get some flipping news. But I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Just like the video, sub if you want to see more content like this. Check out some of my other videos. Maybe you're seeing one on screen right now that you might not have seen, but thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.